There's lots of stuff going on, so let's get to it. First, we are going to talk about immigration. And this is Braverman. She was removed from her Home Secretary position in the UK for this. This is why she was removed. She said this, and then you're fired. Get out. Where's David Cameron? Get him back in here. Here we go.
Immigration, inadequate integration, and a misguided dogma of multiculturalism have proven a toxic combination for Europe over the last few decades. I'm not the first to point this out. In 2010, Angela Merkel gave a speech in which she acknowledged that multiculturalism had utterly failed. And then French President Nicolas Sarkozy and British Prime Minister David Cameron echoed similar sentiments shortly thereafter. Multiculturalism makes no demands of the incomer to integrate. It has failed because it allowed people to come to our society and live parallel lives in it. They could be in the society, but not of the society. And in extreme cases, they could pursue lives aimed at undermining the stability and threatening the security of our society. We are living with the consequence of that failure today. You can see it play out in the streets all over Europe, from Malmo to Paris, Brussels to Leicester. It is 13 years since Merkel gave her speech, and I'm not sure that very much has changed since. If people are not able to settle in our countries and start to think of themselves as British, American, French or German, then something is going badly wrong. National identity...
Well, you can't point that out. You're fired. Right? And so bring in David Cameron. He won't say anything like that off script. Here is Natasha she says, Natasha Montreal, Live Free or Die. She says, this is a must-read article. It's written in French, but I've attempted to translate an excerpt below. Quote, we saw that the integration of immigrants was not going as well as expected in the West. We then explained that it was the fault of the host society imposing a discriminatory system on newcomers without investing sufficiently in their integration, which meant it was not necessary to work to integrate immigrants into the national culture. It was necessary to re-educate the host society and to free it from its racism and the prejudices it had against diversity. This reverse onus approach obviously presupposes that the host society has no particular cultural or national identity, and if it does, the culture or national identity must be treated as an immense prejudice to be deconstructed to allow diversity to flourish without hindrance. And then there's the French part here. So it's interesting how the culture that is the host country is secondary to the people coming in. It's actually not secondary to the people coming in, but it's secondary to the diversity. And the diversity is Marxism, basically. And that's what's going on, because the diversity is demanding the deconstructing of our culture in order to pave the way for all of these newcomers who will, I don't know, lead to utopia or whatever the Marxists want. It's actually just a power and control thing. And Braverman, who got fired, was right. Maxime Bernier is correct here too. The multiculturalism is a failed doctrine that doesn't work. It destabilizes. If by work you mean have a cohesive society that thrives, if by work you mean destabilizes, then it works a treat, right? Depends on your intention, I suppose. Maxime Bernier says, mass immigration and official multiculturalism are destroying national identities and social cohesion in many other Western countries. That's the case in England, Britain too. Here is Matt Goodwin, and he says, join us at mattgoodwin.org or retweet if you feel the same way. So he's talking about immigration in the UK. It is, the United Kingdom is smaller, and they have 20,000, 25,000 more, or 25 million more people. So it's denser, it's more crowded. If you go to places, I have family in the UK. So I have an aunt who moved here, and she said, it's nice going to places where there isn't always a lineup. There's a lineup everywhere in where she was living. Didn't matter what time of day, didn't matter anything like that. There's a lineup because it was crowded, and the services can't keep up, same as here, and the people just keep coming in. So there's lineups everywhere. So people are sick of it, and they're speaking out, and they're trying to organize. And you know what's funny? People don't understand the history. Because they don't understand the history, they organize in a clumsy way. Because they organize in a clumsy way, they're easily dispersed, easily dealt with, easily infiltrated, easily wedged, and easily fractured. You take the leader, you wedge the leader from the rest, and bingo, bango, bongo, it's done. Anyway, it's very interesting. Like targeting Farage, targeting Trump, targeting any number of people, saying that anybody who's coalescing a following, Doug Ford, Patrick Brown, anybody in Ontario politics, but I'm sure it's been used around your locales as well. All of them were Trumpian, every single one, and none of them actually had Trumpian policies. But anyways, it's very, very interesting to watch people not understand that this has happened before, and history does hold answers. It's very interesting. Here's what's going on in England.
For more than 20 years, both of the big parties have fundamentally failed to respond to the challenge that these threats pose to Britain, to our community, and to our way of life. They have continued to pursue policies like mass migration. They have refused to talk about the problems that come with multiculturalism, a policy that consistently prioritizes group difference over commonality, a policy that is obsessed with preserving the distinctiveness of minority groups while ignoring or undermining or downplaying the concerns of the wider majority, and established politics which is simply no longer in touch with the public mood out there. The vast majority of people want to see dramatic changes in these areas. They want to see immigration lowered. They want to see multiculturalism completely reshaped. They want to see foreign nationals who commit crimes or who glorify terrorism removed from the country.
It seems pretty straightforward and pretty basic, because that's the job of government. It's to make sure that the communities in your country are safe and able to be accessed by the citizens, able to be utilized for business. The citizens have places to move into, so on and so forth. It's not up to the government to provide housing per se, but it's up to the government to provide the circumstances by which affordable housing can be built. All of these things can be built. And you shouldn't be making housing that's geared for affordable housing. Like, we understand that the regular people make X number a year and we're going to build houses, but we also understand that X number of people make under that amount, so we're going to build other houses that are geared towards those people. I don't think that that's a good idea. I think that you should be striving to make everything as affordable as possible for absolutely everybody and stop punishing people for being successful. Like, it's crazy. Anyway, here's 6Buzz TV, and they're pointing out a fight between Sikhs and Hindus took place on Diwali last night in Brampton. And so this is pretty wild stuff. And I mean, again, I'm not surprised by what's going on, because we are not, as Canadians, we're not demanding that the people coming here integrate into Canadian society. In fact, we're saying, diversity is our strength. Bring your culture and ignore ours, and that's not great. That's not resulting in a good product. It's not resulting in a peaceful country. It's not resulting in a predictable country. And Diwali is supposed to be a celebration, man. This doesn't look like a celebration. Here you go. So you've got the Khalistani guys waving the Khalistani flags, and then you've got the Hindus celebrating Diwali, and then a fight breaks out, right? So, and it sounds like a war zone. That's not good. That's not good. Okay, I have a whole theory about the Spain and the change of wind. I've been talking about how there's a change of wind in Canadian politics, and it seems like Justin Trudeau's being swept out of office at this point in time. And Kathleen Wynne was swept out of office. Everybody hated Kathleen Wynne. She knew that she was going to lose that election. And she said, please don't give Doug Ford a majority. Please vote for Andrea Horwath or somebody not Doug Ford. And Doug Ford was brought in with a large majority because there wasn't really another option back in 2018. I really wish that there was some kind of other option, though. I really wish Ontario would do something different than what we've done. Anyways, I don't want to get sidetracked. I feel like the media is pushing Pierre Poilievre, and it seems like a switch has gone off. And I don't think the public awakening, yes, there are people who are waking up, but I don't think the public awakening is as widespread as this switch seems to indicate. And it feels to me like they lost control in Spain. It feels to me like the Spanish people said, I don't think we're going to do this anymore. You can get lost, right? And they started protesting en masse. I'm showing a picture on the screen, and I'll get there in a minute, of Valencia, Malaga, Madrid, and other videos with big protests. So I think the people who are in charge in Spain are WEF affiliated people, same as Canada, right? So the premise that I often talk about, if you take control of your country, you're going to have a bad time because other WEF controlled countries are not going to trade with you. The EU is going to have a hard time with Spain if they're able to assert themselves. It's going to be interesting because we're going to have a case study to look at. This is very interesting to me, and I can't believe that I missed it until Tucker Carlson went out there. But before I get there, I think the people in Spain are using this as a lesson. I think they looked at Canada and they said, these people are angry. What can we do to back them off the ledge? Because they're close, right? And it's not going to take much more to have Canadians in the streets, because we did that once already and we changed the effing world. The truckers did. They did. They got rid of O'Toole. I don't know if Poilievre's better, but he's showing better and a lot more people like him. And they ended the vax mandates and they ended the mask mandates. So that was a very successful thing. Canadians got into the streets and they changed the world. Okay. So they're terrified that they're going to piss Canadians off again because we'll effing well finish the job this time. And by finish the job, I mean go there and not leave until Justin Trudeau is removed from office and we replace it with an interim government, possibly of truckers who clean up the rot and restore democracy. Fingers crossed. I know that's a tall order. Goodness me, it's a tall order. But they're terrified. So they want a different track. They want not protests. They don't want to use the boot of the police. They don't want to do that because that starts a war. And they do want a war. I've been talking about them wanting a war, but they want us to go to Europe to fight their war. So they want us on their side. They want us liking them. Okay, you understand? They're trying to manipulate us. So I think they look at Spain, they get terrified of what's happening and what could happen in Canada because we're really formidable when we're angry. And so they come up with this, right? Pierre Poilievre is 40% federal polling according to Polling Canada. There's 1,000 people in this poll, right? It's an online poll. It's nanos. 1,000 people? How are these polls viable? People are talking like this is absolutely viable, but it plays into what I'm trying to tell you, and all the polls look like this. So it is what it is. It's 1,000, but they all look like this. All of the polls that I've seen recently have Poilievre winning handily everywhere. Anyway, so take it with a grain of salt. It's only 1,000 people, but there are a bunch like this. 40% for the CPC and Poilievre, 22%, down 11 for the Trudeau and the Liberals. NDP up 2 to 20 for the NDP. Green plus 5, 7, which is, I think this is further and further out is just nonsense. Bloc is down 1 to 7 and PPC is down 3 to 2%. So again, take it with a grain of salt. Here's the seat projections as well. 210 for the Conservative Party plus 91 from the 2021 election. Down 107 for Trudeau and the Liberals to 53 seats. NDP gained 14 seats with 39. Still not enough to overtake the Liberals, even with the Bloc, right? Bloc at 32 and the Greens at 9, plus 7. I don't believe that. I do not believe that, not a little tiny bit. Although I had a conversation with somebody the other day who said, Guelph will go Green if they don't go Liberal. I was like, oh, for crying out loud, you're probably right. So that's a terrible prospect. But I think because Spain is so pissed and rising up, I think that the powers that be are looking at Canada and saying, we're going to try a different track. And Pierre Poilievre is going to build 15-minute cities. He's going to build 15-minute cities and he's going to keep importing people. He's going to say he's making things less expensive. He's going to remove the carbon tax, and that's an easy way to make things less expensive. And people are going to love it. People are going to love it. They're not going to see it for what it is for years until we have pillbox apartments around all sorts of transit stations. And people go, it looks a lot like a 15-minute city. And then they lock us into 15-minute cities. I think that's what's going to happen. But I've been wrong before. Here's Tucker Carlson in Spain. Jack Pozo says, the world needs to see what's happening in Spain. It's not getting the coverage it deserves. Here's Tucker Carlson.
Carlson, you've been with Donald Trump the last days. Now you're here in Spain, yes, meeting Spanish leaders. Yes. How is the world seeing this weird event that is happening in Spain, this violation to our democracy?
Well, the world isn't seeing it enough, and that's why we wanted to come, because it's not getting the coverage it deserves. I mean, anybody who would violate your constitution, potentially use physical violence, to end democracy is a tyrant, is a dictator. And this is happening in the middle of Europe. So we thought it deserved more coverage than it's getting.
But is the world actually seeing how important is what is happening here?
No, the world is not seeing how important it is. But we hope to change that.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So can you imagine if Tucker Carlson is the VP pick? That would be the vitality of somebody being able. Tucker Carlson was at a UFC event yesterday. He was in Budapest a few days ago. I think it was Budapest. He was talking to there was another interview he did with Bolsonaro not that long ago. He's traveling a whole lot, and the fact that he was UFC the other day and now he's in Spain, right? Maybe it was Barcelona. Maybe it was a different one than I saw. Anyways, crossing things in my head. But fundamentally, comparing Biden and Kamala Harris, who's a complete Looney Tune, like she's nuts, to him and Trump, holy cow, right? The world would be a vastly different place if Tucker Carlson had the power of the vice presidency and the backing of Trump and like 50% of the American public, probably. Here's Alfonso, and he says, thanks, Tucker Carlson, for bringing attention to the left's coup against Spain's constitutional order. They seek to remain in power at all costs to impose their globalist socialist order on the Spanish people, while Spaniards take to the streets. The U.S. and the world media remains silent. Yeah, I didn't even know. So this is a huge protest. What's happening in Spain is absolutely massive. Again, our lying mainstream media are nowhere near the story. So yeah, the mainstream media want to tell you about Justin Trudeau's socks in his hair. They're not interested in talking about the real story. Here's End Wokeness, and it says, Tucker Carlson has joined the uprising in Spain against the socialist coup. He is marching with the opposition leader. Tucker is basically a world leader now. He could get tapped. He could get tapped, honestly. And it would be, I think people would be excited about it. It would be almost as good as the JFK. It would almost be good as Trump Kennedy, because Trump Kennedy has got historical meaning. Like that would tug on the American heartstrings. People who remembered that and remembered the 90s and hearkening back to that. Like JFK was released in 1992, right? So 92, 93, I think 92, that era. So it's interesting because there's a whole generation of people who know the Kennedy name, and RFK Jr. is an interesting ambassador for the Kennedys at this point in time. So Tucker Carlson would be a really good other alternative. If that's Trump's shortlist, man, it would be interesting. It would be interesting to watch. Being mindless is sad says, now I understand why CBC News is not reporting. Spain has the same people in power as Canada. Same Build Back Better criminals, right? Yeah. Yep. So that's what's going on. I think that if they lose Spain, it's one of those things. It's a setback, and they'll infiltrate, and they'll work to get back into the power that they previously had, like the Liberals did when they were decimated originally in Canada, and they were third party, right? The NDP were the opposition under Mouclair, and then the Liberals came storming back to win, which was manufactured, maybe. Yes, through bad press for Harper, through Harper being a poor communicator in that campaign. But again, the press was signaling a wind change. Harper could do no right, and Trudeau could do no wrong. So I don't know that it was an accurate. It was a decision based on accurate information. I could say confidently it was not. Antonio again says Justin Trudeau has threatened provincial premiers that he will cut off healthcare funding unless they agree to the digital ID. The digital ID system will allow the government to control every aspect of your life. So why do they not want the civil unrest? Because they're not ready to close the trap yet. This is people realizing they're in the trap, jumping out of the boiling pot, right? They've realized something's wrong and we're not going to let this happen. So they're trying to get the trap in place and closed before people understand. Because when you rise up with digital ID, well, they just turn you off. You don't exist anymore, and maybe you starve to death, and that's that. They don't care, right? And that's a problem. And so she says that all of the premiers were told that if they didn't implement a digital ID, they'd be cut off of funding from Justin Trudeau. And she says she's got proof, but I watched the video and I didn't see the proof, except that she's not wrong. Like, here's the digital ID in Ontario from ontario.ca, right? So you can go to ontario.ca. The link is in the description if you're interested in checking it out. And it says digital ID in Ontario. Learn about Ontario's digital identity program, which introduces a new convenient way to prove who you are that will make accessing online and in-person services simpler, safer, and more secure. What digital ID is and is not. So in this green background, it says what digital ID is. It's convenient, it's secure, it's privacy privacy preserving, it's verifiable, in your control, voluntary. And then in this red block of whatever, it says digital ID is not stored in a central database, not a tracking device, not usable without your permission, not usable at all, because I won't effing well use it. Like, nope. I don't understand and won't be downloading your crap app, period. And they're saying that, Google is you're not going to be allowed to access online without it. You're not going to be able to access this and that. That's only if they have leverage. Otherwise, they won't be able to force people because it's not a better. Do you have two-factor authentication on any of your password things, right? By all rights, it's better security, but it's a pain in the butt. And people don't, if they turn it on, they turn it off shortly after. Sometimes you have to use it, like for work and things like that, right? And so I feel like if they implement this thing and if they get people on board, people will not be on board for very long. If they get people on board at all. Yesterday, moving on a little bit, the digital ID is related to Spain's WEF leadership and all of the rest of it. And the WEF, they're really trying hard. Well, we've got some other WEF stuff in China-related news here. So we'll go there before we get into the governance stuff. Anne says, Chrystia Freeland is listed on the board of governors on the Asia Infrastructure Bank. And I was like, man, I can't believe that she's still listed on the board of governors for this bank. And Holly Doan's reporting, Minister Freeland faces questions by MPs over ongoing dealings with Beijing Bank dubbed a Communist Party front. Freeland promised to suspend work with the Asia Infrastructure Bank 5 months ago. So, I mean, they make all these promises, but they don't actually follow through. So here she is on the board of governors right? Here she is, Chrystia Freeland. She's on the board of governors, right? And so that's weird for the Asia Infrastructure Bank. And one of the other things that I found that was really strange is I went to this to find what they do, right? And I went to the approved projects and I thought, I wonder how many projects have been completed by the Asia Infrastructure Bank in Canada. Because they've got all these other places like Argentina, Azerbaijan, Bangladesh, Belarus, Brazil. Like Belarus is in Asia, right? I don't think. Brazil's not in Asia, right? So, but I was surprised that Canada's not on this drop-down list, right? Like they've got Egypt. Egypt is in the Middle East, right? It's not. Hong Kong's in China. I guess that's in Asia. But there's all these places that I thought, the Russian Federation, are there Russian Federation projects that have been approved? I wonder. But it's interesting. Okay, no results found. But there's no Canada. That's a long way to get there. But there's no Canada on this drop-down map because I wanted to see what the approved projects had been completed in Canada. Nothing. I checked the board of directors. No Chrystia Freeland on the board of directors. So that's interesting. But she's on the board of trustees for the WEF. She's got her WEF page here, right? Chrystia Freeland's got a nice big long lineup. And then here she is on the WEF website, World Economic Forum, and she's on the board of trustees, Chrystia Freeland, right? So Chrystia Freeland is on this board of people who are not great, right? Not great, for lack of a better term. Remember you will own nothing and you'll be happy? I wanted to watch it again because I wanted a video of Klaus Schwab saying you'll own nothing and be happy. But this is the same thing, essentially. World Economic Forum. Klaus Schwab represents the World Economic Forum. This is a video they produced that's a minute and 30 seconds long. At 1 minute 14 seconds, it talks about, on the video, Western values will have been tested to the breaking point. Is that where we're in? This was from 2016, November 18th, 2016. So you can read that on the screen. I read it out to you already. I'm going to just play a little bit of it, and I'll read what the background, I'll read what it says in the background. Like, the video's got lots of bleeps and bloops, but the meat of the video is the words that it's saying on the screen. So I'll read those out. And should I start it from the beginning? I'll start it from the beginning. Here we go. 8 predictions for the world in 2030. Bleep, bloop, bloop. You'll own nothing, and you'll be happy. Sure, Economic Forum. Whatever you want, you'll rent, and it'll be delivered by drone. Yeah, nope. The US won't be the world's leading superpower. A handful of countries will dominate. You won't die waiting for an organ donor. We won't transplant organs. We'll print new ones instead. This technology has not been created. You'll eat much less meat. An occasional treat, not a staple, for the good of the environment and our health. Nonsense. 1 billion people will be displaced by climate change. Nonsense. We'll have to do a better job at welcoming and integrating refugees. Interesting. Polluters will have to pay to emit carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide isn't pollution. There will be a global price on carbon. Nope. This will help make fossil fuels history. Nope. You could be preparing to go to Mars. Nope. Scientists will have worked out how to keep you healthy in space. Nope. The start of a journey to find alien life. Western values will have been tested to the breaking point. It says that. Checks and balances that underpin our democracies must not be forgotten. Huh. November 18th, 2016, you say. Didn't Donald Trump just win? So this is weaponized propaganda by people who should not be in charge of weaponizing propaganda and shouldn't be in charge of using taxpayer money to funnel to the WEF. The WEF manages the Canadian CPP fund in the market. Weird, right? Weird. Oh, you guys are creating projects and you want to penetrate the cabinets? Let's just give you all of our retirement funds. Please don't, sell us out. Ugh. I don't trust them nearly enough for that. The Post-Millennial is reporting, a reporter asks National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan if Biden will try to hold China accountable for the spy balloon during his meeting with Xi. And he says, we do not feel that there was any information gained that was problematic by the spy balloon. So that's an interesting situation. Here's the question and the answer.
You mentioned that you guys see this as an important meeting on Wednesday, but I'm curious, will the president, during his time with the Chinese president, try to hold China accountable for the spy balloon this year? I know obviously it seems like it was 20 years ago, but it was this year. The Chinese have said it was still a weather balloon. They said they should get the technology back. What kind of response are we going to see from the president this week on the spy balloon?
Well, as I said before, I'm going to let the president be able to sit down with President Xi and speak to him person to person, face to face, and again, not be doing diplomacy from the podium. And we can report to you afterwards, consistent with whatever is appropriate to share publicly on these issues. But I will say that President Biden took steps to take down that balloon once it was safe to do so and out of potential harm's way to civilians. We were able to recover it, to exploit it. And from our perspective, the critical thing is that because we were able to protect ourselves along the way of that path, we do not feel that there was any information gained that was problematic. And so the United States, the president, is going to focus at this point on how he stands up for and protects American interests going forward across the full range of challenges in this.
Not just spy balloons. Bull. I don't believe it. Yesterday, Hello everyone, thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful